What if the oceans instantly evaporated? Imagine waking up one morning to a world-altering headline. Oceans gone, all water vanished overnight. No countdown, no warning, no gradual climate disaster, just gone. One moment, the seas stretched out beyond the horizon, deep and eternal. The next, they were nothing but vast, cracked basins, steaming faintly under the morning sun. No tsunamis, no floods, just silence, salt, and sky. At first, the human mind wouldn't know how to process it. News helicopters would buzz over the gaping emptiness of the Pacific, capturing footage of ghost ships resting on their keels in the dirt like abandoned toys. Marine life, billions of fish, whales, plankton, gone in an instant. Entire ecosystems, entire worlds wiped out. Coral reefs, now sun-scorched graveyards. Seagulls circling in confusion over bone-dry coasts. The air would shimmer with residual heat. The moisture of 1 trillion tons of water turned to vapor in a single breath of geological time. The panic would be global and instant. Weather patterns, after all, rely on the oceans. Within hours, the skies would become strange. Without the steady engine of oceanic evaporation, clouds would falter and storms would stop. Rainforests, already delicate, would begin drying by the day. Deserts would expand like spilled ink. Rivers, without their source, would dwindle into memory. Snow-capped mountains would hold on to their ice like a secret, but even they would begin to sweat in the heat of this new, sun-baked earth. Coastal cities would stand in eerie silence. Ports once bustling with trade would now open into miles of exposed seabed, muck, shells, rusting skeletons of submarines and tankers. Tourists might drive out onto the crust of the former Atlantic to see the Titanic's resting place, now awkwardly visible beneath a shroud of silt. But it wouldn't be long before the seafloor turned deadly. The stench of decay, the cracking ground, the shifting tectonic plates suddenly free from the balancing weight of water pressure. And it would get hotter. The oceans absorb most of Earth's heat, like a planetary thermostat. Without them, daytime temperatures would soar, nights would freeze. The temperate zones that cradle agriculture and civilization would transform within weeks into unpredictable zones of drought and fire. Crops would fail. Mass migrations would begin, not just between countries, but between altitudes and latitudes. Humanity would begin climbing the mountains just to escape the choking heat of the lowlands. But beyond the surface chaos, the world's deepest mysteries would be laid bare. The Mariana Trench, Earth's most secretive abyss, would be exposed to sunlight for the first time in history. Ancient sea vents, black smokers, and the remains of unknown species would be found clinging to cracks in the crust. Scientists would rush to document everything before the exposed underworld crumbled or baked beyond recognition. Expeditions would venture into these newly revealed landscapes like explorers on a new planet, one that had always been beneath us. Politically, the world would fracture. Water wars would erupt within weeks. The oceans weren't just scenery. They were our largest reservoir of fresh water through desalination, not to mention our climate buffer and food source. Nations with glacier-fed reserves would be the new superpowers. Others would fall into chaos. Global cooperation might emerge or collapse. And then, almost too late, we'd realize the second catastrophe looming: the vapor. If the oceans didn't just vanish, but evaporated, that moisture had to go somewhere. The atmosphere would become thick, chokingly humid, like a planet wrapped in a sauna. His satellites would detect a rapid increase in atmospheric pressure and greenhouse effect, and once that water vapor began condensing, the skies would open, not gently, not with nourishing rain, but with cataclysmic deluges. The Earth might cycle through violent hyperstorms, never settling into a new equilibrium. Some people would try to adapt. Underground cities, artificial aquifers, massive cooling towers. Religions might reinterpret ancient texts, claiming prophecy. Children would grow up never knowing what it meant to swim, to watch the tide roll in, to hear the lull of waves on a quiet night. And then one day, long after the shock had faded and the new deserts had taken hold, someone might ask the question, what did the oceans mean to us, really? They weren't just water. They were origin, memory, motion. They held the first spark of life, the first cradle of every ancestor we've ever had. To lose them would be more than an environmental collapse. It would be a spiritual one. We would become a species stranded in our own home, like fish flung onto land. And in the silence left behind, we might finally understand how much of our soul was anchored to the sea. Hey, before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Got a crazy idea or a weird question you want to see turned into a video? Drop it in the comments below, and who knows? Your idea might be the next one I bring to life.